Average Woodsman here, back with another video. So today I wanted to kind of go over 5 long-term survival items that you should have in your arsenal or in your kit for, I'm talking the long-term scenario. So not something like a 72-hour. So not something like a 72-hour scenario or a short-term survival kit, get home bag, not that kind of stuff. I'm talking about items that you're going to have either at your home, your homestead, your farm, your ranch, your property, whatever you're going to be doing and staying for a long period of time. I'm talking about these types of items. So I did a video like this probably a year and a half ago with 5 items. I want to do, this is kind of a continuation of that whole concept, that video series. Maybe I'll make it like an actual playlist or something, but as of now it's just going to be that video and this video. But this video is going to be kind of a continuation of that and why these items are important to have in the long term for sustainability, for survivability, whether it be grid down or maybe you're just, it could be SHTF, or maybe you want to live off the landscape and have something of a homestead. So let me go ahead and get into these items, and I'll break each one of them down, talk about them briefly, and then we can close out the video. All right, so the first item I want to talk about is a good quality shotgun. It doesn't necessarily have to be a side-by-side. Could be a single shot, could be a pump action, even a semi-automatic. But remember, you want to have these firearms be relatively simple and bomb-proof. And something like this, it's just a standard side-by-side 12-gauge shotgun break action, or it can be a single shot. You have so much versatility with a firearm like this. Just think about it. This can take anything in North America. Anything from the smallest ground squirrel all the way up to a grizzly, if you absolutely had to. From a rifled slug all the way down to just bird shot for something like dove or squirrels or quail. You can do all that with this type of a firearm. That's why it's so versatile. Also, Short Lane Arms makes inserts for these that you can have. They're called rifle adapters. So they're rifled inserts that go into the barrel, and they actually have in different calibers. So you can take a 12 gauge to 22 or a 12 gauge to 20 gauge or whatever you want to do. Makes this even more versatile. And I do have those. I actually have one that I use also in my TPS Arms M6. They're useful. They're not super accurate, and they're not, unless you get the longer ones. But the shorter ones are not as accurate. They tend to tumble, at least in my experience. That's for more like dispatching animals at close range. But the shotgun in and of itself, even if you don't want to go that route, is so useful and so multifunctional in what it can do. It can be a defensive tool. It can be a hunting tool. You can do basically whatever you want with a shotgun like this. A single shot is just as good, if not better. I like a side-by-side because I do a lot of hunting. I do a lot of squirrel. I do a lot of dove, other types of birds. So I like to have a good shotgun. And I understand that, I get a lot of views from all over the world. So I understand that not everyone has access to firearms, but something like this, a lot of countries allow people to have, even ones that have more restrictive laws, like in Europe. You can still have like a side-by-side shotgun for hunting. So you may not be able to keep it at home and have it like that, but this is just a really versatile firearm that I like to have, and I think it's really important for the long term. Another firearm that I think is indispensable in a long-term, whether it be homestead, like I said, SHTF, survival, whatever it is, having a really good 22 caliber rifle is arguably the most important item that you can have for food procurement, firearm wise. You guys have seen this one in lots of videos. This is my 10/22 takedown with my silencer co-suppressor. This one is set up specifically for hunting, but it can be used You can take this firearm down, throw it in the back of your truck. You can throw it in a backpack. It works well in like a canoe, whatever you want to do. It's easy for transportation. And I have 10-round magazines. I have magazines in here with extra ammunition. So there's just so much versatility to a 22, and it doesn't have to be this 22. It doesn't have to be a 10-22 takedown. It can be any 22 rifle that you're comfortable with, a bolt action, semi-automatic, but it needs to be a robust, durable firearm that you know will last for a long time, because remember, this is not a short 72-hour situation, so this is not going to be a throwaway item that you're going to use and abuse and then toss afterward. This is going to be something that you need to have for a long time, and you're going to use it a lot. The reason why I have a suppressor on here, first off, it helps with hearing, to keep my hearing good. Also, it's in a possible situation like SHTF. Maybe I don't want people hearing me when I'm out and about hunting. And that's a big thing depending on what type of situation that you're in. If it's just a homestead, that's probably not going to matter. But if it's in SHTF or grid down or something like that, you're not going to want people to know that you're there. So having a suppressor and using standard velocity 22 ammunition, these are subsonic. They don't make, the only thing you can hear, and I have a video on my shorts channel of me shooting this, basically the bolt reciprocating and it hitting the target downrange. It's all you can hear. So it'd be a good firearm to have when you're in a situation, a long-term situation, that you don't want people to know that you're there for whatever reason that is. So a 22 caliber rifle is obviously going to be close to the top of my list on firearms or tools in general that I'm going to want in a long-term survival situation. An item often overlooked, I just don't see it very often used or talked about, is just a fleshing tool, a defleshing tool that you can use to deflesh a hide when you're in the process of tanning that hide for use. It's honestly a really important piece of kit for the long term, especially if you have something like a homestead where you're planning on using every single animal that you kill, or the most animals that you kill, and tanning those hides for deer and other types of animals that you're going to come across while you're hunting your property or adjacent properties where you're going to use the animal. And when you're in a situation, a long-term survival situation, it's going to be a lot different than just when you go out hunting in your tree stand, in the deer woods, just for the season. A lot of guys, they don't keep everything on the animal because it's not necessary. But in a long-term situation or a long-term scenario, whether, like I said, that be SHTF or just a homestead, you're going to want to eat all of the meat, eat all of the organs. You're going to want to use the bones for tools, use the hide. So you're going to want to tan the hide, which is where this comes into use. You're also going to want to use the guts, for traps and fishing and all other types of things. So you can use every part of that animal because it's such an important resource. And having a tool like this to flesh the hide, which is part of that process of tanning a hide, it doesn't really matter if you're brain tanning it or if you're chemically tanning the hide. You're still going to need to flesh that hide or deflesh that hide. All right, so I want to talk about another food gathering item, and with this series that I'm starting, with the previous video and now this one, you're going to see a lot of food gathering items because that's going to be one of the most important or the most critical things to be able to, the skill along with the items to have to feed yourself and feed your family in the long term. You're not going to be able to just go to a grocery store and get what you need for the week. So having items that you can use to feed yourself and to feed your family is going to be critical. because you can always go down to the creek and grab some water to boil it. You know, you can cut wood with an axe or baton it for your fires to keep you warm, but you're not going to be able to just get food at whenever you need to. So you're going to want to be able to have a lot of methods to gather that food, and one of them is going to be fishing, or it should be. And in the last video I talked about trapping, and I talked about gigs and things like that. This video I want to talk about yo-yo fishing reels. So I have a whole bunch of yo-yo fishing reels. I don't know, I have a box of like 20 or 30 of them that I've bought over the years. These ones are ones, and you guys have seen this bag in other videos. I have quite a few of these Dyneema bags. They're durable and they're lightweight, and you can use them for different types of kits. And in this one I have 5 yo-yo fishing reels already set up. These are already set up with line, with hooks on them, and they are really, really useful because they are a passive fishing method. So you can literally tie this to a tree above a lake, and you can set it. You can put bait on it, set it, and forget it. You don't have to worry about it, and you can come back, and when that and if there is a fish on there, it would have already set the hook because it automatically sets the hook. You don't have to worry about anything else. And if you use these correctly, you can literally set them just like this. And if you use these correctly, you can literally pull this line out, set them, just like this, and this would be in the water, and when something took whatever bait you had, it sets it and sets the hook. It sets the trap and sets the hook, and you can tie these off to a tree or something like that and use this. And it's a super useful piece of kit to have. They don't weigh very much. They don't take up much room, and they're really, really cheap. You can get them on Amazon. I'll put a link to these in Amazon. I've been using them for years. I have like I said, probably between 20 to 30 of them. These ones are already preset. I like to preset them if I'm going to carry them in my kit, and just having them a passive fishing method that you don't have to stand on the bank and fish all day long, or get into your boat and fish all day long. You can set 5 or 6 of these around the lake or whatever it is around the pond that you're fishing, and come back and check them periodically and collect whatever you get. And then once you clean your fish, you could always use the guts from the fish to see if you can catch other things like turtles or fish, other types of fish like catfish and such. You'll be able to use these as a passive fishing method, and they're just really, really, really critical to have these types of items in your long-term survival kit. And these can also be used in the short term too, if you want to keep a couple of these in a short-term survival kit when you go out into the backcountry. Last of the 5 items or 5 categories for this specific video, and I think this is a highly underrated one and not talked about nearly enough, is going to be knowledge. So these are some of my favorite books that I've read and collected over the years. This is not all of them. This is just some of my favorites that I brought out here to show you guys. And I've read all of these. These are excellent books that teach you a lot. You can learn a lot from these, and you can also take these out into the field with you, go through them, and, you know, just learn the skills, put in the dirt time. So I have, obviously, Useful Knots. This book is excellent for learning all different types of knots. Knots are super underrated out in the woods. If you've ever taken any type of survival class or any type of bushcraft class, you learn a lot. They talk a lot about knots, and if you already have these knots, you know, mastered, you don't have to struggle in classes like that or struggle when you're out in the woods. So having a book where you can learn knots, I think, is really important. Obviously, the Trapper's Bible, if you ever want to learn or live the long term in a long-term survival situation or a long-term like a grid down or sustainability off the land, you got to know how to trap. The Trapper's Bible has, I mean, countless different types of traps you can use, everything from modern to primitive. Obviously, Morris Kahansky, one of the, probably one of the most well-known guys for bushcraft and things like that. This is his book, excellent read. This one is Wild Edible Plants. It has all different types of plants for the eastern part of the United States, everywhere from pretty much from like the Midwest all the way to the eastern side of the United States. So this is an excellent book. It even has lots of pictures, even some colored pictures in it, so it's excellent. Dave Canterbury's Bushcraft 101 book, pretty excellent book, honestly. An easy read. It even has illustrations and stuff like that in it. I think it's a good book. It's I think it's a good book to add to your collection. And like I said, these are just some of my favorites. You don't have to pick these specific books, but they're just some recommendations. Alright guys, so that's it for the video today. I just wanted to make a continuation of this series, or make a video in the continuation of this series of items for long-term survival or long-term sustainability. There's not really a whole lot on that. There's not a whole lot of videos or information on that topic. Mainly it's for, bushcraft or for emergency survival situations. This is geared more toward the long-term items that you should have. I'm going to put a link to my original video down in the description so you guys can see that one. That's where I had like axe and traps and things like steel traps and things like that, snares. This one is geared in that same mindset, but just a little bit different. So anyway, remember to like, subscribe, share these videos with your friends and family. Please comment on the video. If you have any questions, you can always reach out. Be safe, stay dangerous, and I'll catch you on the next one.